this while attending a vigil held by the families of organized crime victims in Rome. He paused to bless some of their pictures.
Giovanni Falcone, Francesca Morvillo.
A long list of names, all victims of mafia violence.
Vito Schifani.
After which, the Pope sent a very clear message to perpetrators of organized crime.
Convertitevi, ancora è tempo.
Convert. You still have time not to end up in hell. That is what awaits you if you continue on this path. You had a father and a mother. Think of them. Cry a little and convert.
Organized crime continues to be a major problem in many Italian cities. And in the past 2 decades, it's greatly extended its influence into Rome and Milan.
Another groundbreaking move by Pope Francis. He's now the first leader of the Roman Catholic Church to take personal responsibility for the sexual abuse of children by priests. Alan Pizzi is in Rome. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning. The off-the-cuff remarks by Pope Francis are being seen as an indication that the Catholic Church both understands and is paying attention to the toll that the clerical sex abuse scandal has exacted.
An appreciation of the joy of childhood has been a hallmark of Francis' first year as Pope. Speaking to a group of children's rights workers, he said he felt compelled to personally ask for forgiveness for the damage done by priests who have sexually abused children. He pledged that the church would deal with the problem. I think we must be even stronger, Francis said. You don't play around with the lives of children. Church law provides for sanctions against bishops who protect sexual predators, but so far none have been disciplined for doing so. Francis intimated that would change. He pledged that the Church will not take one step backward with regards to how we will deal with this problem and the sanctions that must be imposed. Pope John Paul II said there was no place for abusers in the priesthood. His successor, Pope Benedict XVI, met with victims, expressed sorrow and regret, and even wept with them. Neither went as far as Francis has done. But a group representing abuse survivors says it's still not far enough.
The church does everything they can to make it about money and make it about policies and make it about commissions. But what they forget about are kids like me who were 15 years old, 14 years old, sexually abused, and my perpetrator got me pregnant and gave me a sexually transmitted disease, and no one was there to help me.
Payments over the church abuse scandal have cost more than $3 billion over the past 8 years in the U.S. alone, according to a church report. Pope Francis' assumption of personal responsibility is an acknowledgement that that price includes more than money. Anita?
Alan Pizzi in Rome, thank you.
To Brazil, that brought out record crowds, was almost overshadowed by a few impromptu comments he made on the way back on the plane. In his first press conference since becoming Pope, Francis made the most conciliatory comments about homosexuals, and specifically gay priests, ever spoken by a modern Pope. The unusually frank press conference on the flight home from Brazil covered a lot of ground, over 80 minutes. But most of the press corps reported this quote from the Pope. If someone is gay and he searches for the Lord and has goodwill, who am I to judge? The comment was an answer to a question about gay priests, believed to be in high positions within the Vatican itself. The words were remarkable for the sentiment and for being the first time a Pope has publicly used the word gay.
For me, it's hard to believe it or accept it, but if that's what we need to do, let God take care of it.
For the first few weeks, they sit here and weep.
Pastor Phyllis Hunt is talking about gay and lesbian congregants at Metropolitan Community Church in Tampa, whose sexual orientation has made them feel unwelcome at their traditional churches.
They come from all over because we are an inclusive church that welcomes them no matter their sexual orientation.
Pastor Hunt realizes the Pope's comments do not imply an approval of homosexual behavior or same-sex unions by the Catholic Church. But Francis's comments that gay clergymen should be forgiven and their sins forgotten is a departure from his predecessors. Hunt believes the Pope's comments represent a trend that may eventually cause her to lose some members of her congregation.
I think many Catholics would go back. Catholicism is something that lives in your bones. It's deep in your soul.
Well, during that plane trip, the Pope was also asked about the possibility of women becoming priests. He said that issue is not open for discussion. And I should say we tried to contact the Bay Area's Catholic Bishop Robert Lynch, but both he and his spokesperson were unavailable.
More than 60,000 people will pack Yankee Stadium tomorrow for a Night of Hope. It's a huge event featuring Lakewood Church pastor Joel Osteen and his wife Victoria. Before he arrived in New York, Osteen paid a special visit to the Vatican, where he met with Pope Francis. Tonight, Osteen shares the experience with Local 2 anchor Dominique Saxa in a story you'll see only on 2 tonight.
I'm here at Yankee Stadium in New York, where Pastors Joel and Victoria Osteen are getting ready for Lakewood Church's Night of Hope coming up tomorrow night. As we sat down and talked about the preparations for the big event, Joel revealed to me an incredible opportunity he just had to meet with Pope Francis.
I just felt very honored and very humbled. Seeing the Pope give the Mass to 100,000 people that day, you just see he has such a heart to help people. I love the fact that he's made the church more inclusive, not trying to make it smaller, but to try to make it larger, to take everybody in.
Not trying to make it smaller, but to try to make it larger, to take everybody in.
So that just resonates with me. You know, he really expressed his desire for us to pray for him. He asked us to pray for the Middle East.
It seems like the Vatican was trying to send a message by doing this. What would you say that is?
I think the message is that they respect people, all people, and that they want to see unity.
Was it surreal to be asked by the Pope to pray for him?
Yeah, it was amazing, you know, and even to go back in that part of the Vatican, there's so much history there. The places that they took us through, and just you feel that deep respect and reverence for God.
You feel that deep respect and reverence for God.
Did anybody ask for a selfie with the Pope? do you get any pictures, any takeaways?
We got some pictures, but not any selfies.
Can you text them to me? With Rome behind him, Joel feels he has divine inspiration.
Divine inspiration.
Fueling his message for tomorrow night.
Black atheist, black atheist, black atheist, black atheist.
This lecture is called The Children of the Sun, and what happened to them. Basically, the conquest of the blacks by religion. Trying to give an explanation on how we lost our witness, what happened to us. I know it sounds a little strange when I say God happened to us. When we accepted God and religion, that's what conquered us. So I want to start it off. I start with, I call this the Holy Bible. Why I call it the Holy Bible? Because the word Bible simply means little book, coming from the Greek word papyrus, right? You take it down to Africa, to the Atlas, the city of the sun, or the sun record. So I'm really holding the sun records, the little book, the Holy Bible, because it's sacred as God. Understand that just because the Muslims come in with the Quran and say this is the last seal of the prophet, this is the last book, nobody else can prophesize, right? That's ridiculous. African people have been writing holy, divine scriptures since time immemorial, and that's like one of the things I want to prove. So this book right here by Chancellor William, a holy prophet, he sat down in the desert in the sand amongst the people, and he was inspired by God. And we're going to deal with that word God. In true essence, he was inspired by nature. So this book, The Destruction of the Black Civilization, Great Issues in Race from 4004 BC to 2000, and the chapter entitled The Conquest of the Blacks by Religion. I'm going to start this off, and I'm going to make sure I make this point real clear, because this is the whole basis and understanding on how they converted us. So the thing is, if they use something to convert us, why are we still using it? Why are we continuing the conversion process? As soon as you make a little headway out of it, you just continue to reconvert yourself again by following their religions. So let's see exactly what Chancellor Williams was saying, right? Other invaders found penetration easy under the banner of religion. So under the banner of religion, it was easy for them to come in because African people have always been a spiritual people. So that wasn't hard. We figured nobody would come in line and cheat and steal, which they did. Full advantage was taken of the fact that Africans are a very religious people. First came the crescent flag of the prophet. The Islamic advance was three-pronged. Mission claiming one brotherhood, widespread intermarriages and concubinage with African women due to the Muslim system of polygamy, and forceful conversion at the sword point. So understand that he was forcibly converted to Islam. The cross of Jesus Christ followed the Muslim. So it was Islam first, then came to Christianity. Right? The cloak of Christianity was a most convenient hiding place for those who had other designs. Hence the drive to convert. Conversion here meant far more than conversion to Christianity, as in the case of Islam. It meant change into the white man's image, his ideas, and his value system. That's what I'm really saying. When you become a Christian, you're being converted into the white man's value system, his ideas, and his thought process. Conversion here meant far more than conversion to Christianity, as in the case of Islam. It meant change into the white man's image, his ideas, his value system. The real object of worship turned out to be neither Jesus Christ nor his Father God, but Western man and Western civilization. Church, Christian brotherhood. Well, yes, in principle, or to be practical, you blacks can have all the Christian brotherhood you desire amongst yourselves, right? Apartheid was an African-wide under colonialism and not a peculiarity of the South African system, as so many are led to think. But what happened in the process of converting the blacks to Islam and Christianity was the supreme triumph of the white world over the blacks. Millions of Africans became non-Africans. Africans who were neither Muslims nor Christian were classified as pagans and therefore required to disavow their whole culture, to disregard practically all African institutions as backward and savage. Let me read this again. Millions of Africans became non-Africans. How did they become a non-African? Right now in North America, you can ask a person, are you black, are you African? They say, no, I'm not African. That's because they've been converted. See the process thousands of years ago? See how that process still emanates today in our society? See how when you accept these religions that are foreign to you, how you automatically think that you're not African? Watch this point. It's a very important point. Millions of Africans became non-Africans. Africans who were neither Muslim nor Christian were classified as pagans. Everybody knows when you step up and learn some information, people begin to call you a pagan, or begin to call you an atheist, or begin to put titles on you, explain that you're crazy or you've lost your mind. Pagans, and therefore required to disavow their whole culture and to regard practically all African institutions as backwards and savage. So when you accepted Islam and Christianity, you abandoned all your cultural institutions. For a culture to survive and maintain its own natural resources, he must be in charge of his cultural institutions. So the way religion, Islam, Christianity, Judaism destroyed you was it made you give up your culture. You lost your language, you lost your way of life, and you disavowed all your institutions. Institutions. The first institution, right, the most highest institution was the black family. So understand that as an institution, that is the oldest institution on the planet, is the black family. So you disavowed your black family. You separated yourself from your grandmother and your grandma and your great-great-grandparents. You said that these pagans, I had nothing to do with them, nothing to do with what they do, what they say. They worship doves, they worship cats, they worship many gods, they worship forces of nature. They was wrong. So that means you had to throw away your whole culture, your whole way of life, all your institutions. Remember, your institutions was dealing with school, science, mathematics, reading, writing. Remember, you gave birth to all these principles. So when you disavowed that way of life for Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, you disavowed your whole way of life. You disavowed all things that are intelligent in life for a religion. Because nowhere in the Bible do I see them breaking down mathematical papyrus. Nowhere in the Bible do I see them building great statues, great buildings, great pyramids. Nowhere in the Bible do you see all these things. Matter of fact, you don't even find a bowl amongst the Hebrew people. If you go to archaeological records, you won't find none of these things. You will find nothing that you can use to help build a great civilization. So let's see. The blacks in their own right became non-persons. Look at that. accepting religion, you become a non-person. Members of a race of nobodies who's hopeless that self-realization as personalities, even in the subordinate status, could only be achieved by becoming a Muslim and a Christian. Let me read that again, that's real important. The blacks in their own right become non-person. Members of a race of nobodies, so hopeless that self-realization as personalities, even in a subordinate status, could only be achieved by becoming a Muslim or a Christian. Indeed, in order to destroy completely not only their African heritage, but also their very African identity, psychologically, they were forced to change their names to Arabic and Christian names. That's the Robert, that's the George, that's the Tom, that's the Bills, that's the Muhammads, that's the Akbars, that's all that. You was forced to change all that. Hence, if these blacks, he says, Emily's, Johns, Muhammad's, Shamus, Abdullah's, happen to achieve greatness in some field, the assumption would be that it was Caucasian achievement, unless a special effort was made to identify the race of the person in question. Blacks at home in Africa and blacks scattered over the world bore the names of their enslavers and oppressors. The ultimate in self-effacement that promoted self-hatred, which made pride in the race difficult. That these psychological shackles still handicap not only the rebirth of modern African states, but also blacks everywhere, should be obvious to all. That's a real powerful statement right there in this book, Structure of Black Civilization. So when you start to have your children, you continue to name them Muslim names and Christian names, right? That will hamper the rebirth of a great black nation. Why? Because once you accept these religions, you give away all your great institutions. And that first institution being the black family, which is the oldest institution. You turn yourself away from your grandmother, your grandfather, your great-great-grandparents. You look at everything they did as being pagan, right? And then you start to look at other people who have accepted back into the African ways, right, as being nobodies, right? So what I'm saying is to be accepted in this world.
Yeah. What's so bad about being a Christian? I mean, you're not clear enough. You saying that we're turning away from our own family and turning away from our own ways. But if I look at the tenets of Christianity, going by the book, it seems like all good things. What's bad about us as black people becoming Christians?
Because it's the sweet candy on the sour milk. All those great tenets that you read, Christianity, it's the sweet candy that lures you in. It's like the gingerbread. What they do, they took the gingerbread, they gave them the sweet cookies and lowered them into the oven. So by the time you accept all that, by the time you get to the middle, the core of it's all about your destruction. Because all these aspects you see that are good and all that are really fragments, right, from an African way of life. Meaning they're taking bits and pieces from outside of our culture, right? Not even the best piece, just bits and pieces of it, right? How the small say, fragment from the peripheral, the outskirts of your culture, right? Formulate it into what they call Christianity, right? And give it back to you. So of course your DNA recognizes that it's something that's being positive and something that's being helpful. But at the end of the day, it's the sweet outside. And then you get to that dangerous, killing you in the middle aspect of it. That's why I'm saying it's a trick. All tricks start off as being good. That's how a person trick you. He give you the good, right, hiding his evil intentions.
What do you say to the person who they figure their life was a mess, and then they turn to Christianity or Islam, and it helped them to get their life straight? What do you say to that?
Let me give you an example. I know I did drugs and alcohol for 15 years. It changed my life around. Now, if I was foolish and was miseducated on what happened in that process, right, I would give credit to outside forces. But at the end of the day, the people that's converted to Christianity and Islam, and the people that go to meetings for drug abuse and that, at the end of the day, you have to be the one to perform the action. So in essence, what they do is they make you give the credit away. They take the credit away from yourself and give it to external forces. In essence, they really take you away from the thing that created all things. The essence that resides inside you, that dark matter that gave birth to the universe and everything else, right? They take you away from that. They always taking an African outside of himself, right? They never allow you to go inside yourself. They never. It's like misrepresentation, meaning you did something, but you misnamed what you did. It wasn't the Christianity that made you better. It wasn't the Islam. It wasn't the fact that you prayed. The fact of the matter was, it was the actions that you did. It was the fact that you decided to make a change, right? And in deciding to make that change, you acted on that. And through that action, a change occurred. Since you've been so miseducated, right? You put European titles, European phrases, European religion on it, and give praise to it, and then you stand up in church and say, this is what do they call it when you stand up in church? When you give
testify.
Yeah, you testify. That's what happened. When the truth of the matter is, you was happened. You the one that did that. You did that, and how was you able to do that? Because your DNA goes back to the beginning of all things. Your DNA goes back to the original.
So what's wrong with using another name? I mean, even if it goes...
Because another name, each culture, right, develops names, signs, and symbols, and tones, and information, right? To place the wrong name on something, right, you give credit to the thing that's killing you in the first place. Although the things that you see in Christianity, you can find in African culture, right? But to misname that, you losing the tones. You got a subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind recognizes tones. You go against your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is like a constant thing. It's been there all the time. Been there with your ancestors, and it's there. And it does not recognize the wrong tone. You give it the wrong tones. The wrong symbol. Each culture has symbols. Each culture allows you to be in control of your natural resources. This is what's so important. Being in control of your natural resources. So one form is religion. He makes his God. He makes these different cultural expressions. He makes his language, depending on where he's at. But he does these things so he can be in control of his natural resources. And being in control of his natural resources, right, he can feed his babies. He can feed his family. He can develop things that makes him a world power, to be on the world stage. But if you're not in control of that, if you're not in control of your tones, if you're not in control of your symbols, right, then you become part of somebody else's culture. You use their signs, you use their symbols, you give them credit.
So what if you joined the Christian family? I mean, couldn't your babies be fed through that? Couldn't you be empowered through?
No, you're continuing, like the book said, right? You're continuing that same, you're passing that same process down. You're opposite in nature, right, would be the Caucasian. That is a very important option. But the thing is, you create a balance there. The thing is, you put the mayat there. Meaning, a bear has to be a bear, right? Or a crocodile has to be a crocodile. And a beaver has to be a beaver. Both live in the river. Both are important to the ecosystem in the river. But when the beaver starts to accept the things of the crocodile and the ways of the crocodile and the terms and the symbols and all the things of the crocodile, then what happens to the beaver? If the beaver teaches his children the ways of the crocodile, what happens to the baby beaver? He gets ate. He gets eaten. He gets put in jail. He gets locked up. He starts to murder. He starts to simply rape. He starts to do all these things that the crocodile does. That's the whole point. When you pass on, first of all, Christianity was introduced to the black people. When was it introduced? First of all, a lot of us that came over here was Muslims. because the Muslims converted us first, right? So most people that came over in the slave trade, transcontinental slave trade, a lot of them was Muslims, right? None to my recollection were Jews, and they definitely weren't Christians, right? So Christianity was actually taught to the slaves, right, by what you're calling your Hebrews or your Jews. They actually taught this to slaves, and you can find that documented in what's the name of the book made by the Nation of Islam. It's called I only had that book. It's called
Secret Relationship.
Yeah, the secret relationship between the blacks and the Jews, right? And they actually have letters, right, showing how the Jews was teaching Christianity to them. So, right here you have the tool of the oppressor, and what's that tool? The religion, their God concept. Why? Because as detailed in that statement I read, in that chapter I read, right, it says that in actuality, when you accept these things, you're accepting the culture. You are accepting the way of life. So when you pass that on to your children, you make them accept that culture, that way of life. But the very thing that they are accepting are the ways of their oppressor. And the only thing, watch this, education and oppression do not fit. Your oppressor can never educate you. Because if your oppressor educates you, then you'll be educated on how to stop the oppression. It is equally as important today for that same mindset to be in charge as it was back then. Nothing has changed. No, everything has changed, right? But nothing is different. Their mindset hasn't changed. They need you to be on that same track. They just give you different things. They switch up stuff. They give you switcheroonie, the 52 fake out. But at the end of the day, it's all about them oppressing you, using your labor, using your mind, using your power. Remember, you have the ability. We've always had the ability to dream, right? But the difference between them and us is we can dream things and we can make it a reality. We can go to another place, right? Because of the high concentration of melanin that exists all in the whole universe. And we'll get into that, right? We have that ability to take things, we can envision things, and bring that vision to a reality. Meaning we have the ability to put the science, the mathematics, to whatever the vision we have, and bring it to being. Like, for instance, the Greeks could not understand how the hell did they build those pyramids. We were there one time, right? We seen, you can go to Civilization and Barbarism by checking out the Diops, right? And he shows you papyruses, and they had the architectural drawings, right? So the Greeks was looking at the architectural drawings and like, what is this, right? They come back years later and see the buildings or the pyramids was placed on the paper, right, on the landscape, and they couldn't figure out how did they get it from the paper to the land. They were like, they practicing magic. They automatically thought that. When the real magic was we had high science, high mathematics, high culture allowed us to have the ability to vision, put the vision on the paper, right? From the paper, use the mathematics and the science to take it from the paper, right, to the landscape, the building. That's what religion kills. That's what Christianity, Judaism, and Islam kills you. Because you can't figure out, right, how did Jesus die and come back to life? And it always scrambles you in your brain. You're like, the Africans was a logical people. Meaning if we couldn't figure it out or put it together, then we was like, that don't make sense. So your whole life, all you Muslim, Christian, Jews, you will always wonder in the back of your mind, how did Moses split the Red Sea? That question will never get answered. What?
The classic question.
Classic question.
Do you believe in God?
Let's do this. Let me find a paper. Do I believe in God? So let's deal with the word God first, as to not to get confused, right? Where's the paper I'm looking for? All right, I'm going to start right here. I've always asked you, do you believe in God? So when you really ask me, I believe in God, you ask me, do I believe in the European cultural expression? Do I believe in all the things that the European placed on that cultural expression? Do I believe in that misunderstanding that they stole from the Africans that had a total understanding? And no, not no, but hell no, I don't believe in God. Me as an African, I'm never supposed to believe in anything I'm supposed to know. So no, I don't believe in God. I know God. I know what God is. I know how to use God. I understand why God is a man, not a woman. I understand why they don't have to balance that. I understand all these things. Let's get the record straight on this first, right? God was created by man. Nowhere you look on this planet, you always see writings talking about God. But the question is, who wrote that? So if you be honest with yourself, a man had it right. I don't care if it came from the deep black part of Africa to the super Sudan somewhere, or to the halls of Europe, right? All these records were written by man. So of course, God had to come out of the minds of man. But that word God came out of the minds of Europeans. I'm going to show you that, so I'm going to come to the etymology. Right? Etymology. Ology, study of ether, the beginning. So the start of the study of God. Right? Where did God come from? Let's start with this. This is what they say. They say, right, God can be identified as the proper name of the one supreme and infinite personal being, the creator and ruler of the universe, to whom man owes obedience and worship to. But they say the proper name. So right now the Europeans say that's the proper name. The hell with everybody else was thinking. The hell with the couple billion people on the planet that don't even use that word. Okay, next. It says the common or genetic name of several supposed beings to whom the polytheist religions divine attributes are described and divine worship rendered. See, right then they started jumping on people that believe in different expressions or different aspects of that, right? They start to break them down a little bit. Check this out. The name sometimes applies to an idol as the image or dwelling place of God. So that's their definition, right? Let's deal with where did it come from. Let's see. Root meaning of the name, right? From the Gothic root, guru, or Sanskrit, hu or emu, to invoke or to sacrifice, is either the one invoked or the one sacrificed, from different Indo-Germanic roots. Word God is a German word coming from good. You can look it right up in any dictionary, it'll tell you that, right? So we got Indo-Germanic, we got Gothic, we got Sanskrit. Let's see. We got come to the Indo-Aryan, Diva or Sanskrit, right? So we got Indo-Aryan. We got Latin, Dios, the Greek Theos, Iris, what's that? Gothic, all of which are generic names. Also, you got Zeus. The point I'm making is, in none of the explanations do you hear the Africans. It's all Aryan. It's an Anglo-Saxon. It's a Germanic. It's a Persian. It's a Hindu expression of what they was trying to explain when they ran across the original people. It's not one of your expressions. The most powerful word that these English people have is called God. Because when you hear that word, like it says definition in the Sanskrit, you mean invoke. What does the word God invoke on you? For me, the word God invokes ignorance. Ignorance of self and kind. Because you lose that when you accept God. But you who believe in religions, which you should never believe in anything in the first place, you should always know, right? It invokes the power of the universe. And some of you are probably looking at me saying, I don't want to look at this because I'm going to get struck down. It invokes power in your mind. But the only power in your mind it evokes is the power that the white man has. When you're afraid of God, see, African expression is, you should not fear that which gave birth to you. That don't make no sense. Right? You start reading through the sacred writings of the Africans, right? They're not really giving you need to fear God, right? But once you get into your European holy inspired books, your Hebrew books, it's all about, if you don't do what God say, I'm going to strike you down and kill you. So in essence, if you really want to learn about white people, right, you need to read the Bible. Because people put their greatest attributes, their most feared things, they put into this deity as an example of who and what they are. So when you read the Bible, you get a clear picture of who the white man is. Understanding that in the Bible, God says does not kill. Then he tells Moses, go down there and kill all the Midianites. Right? Not only kill all the Midianites, right? Kill all the women and children, but don't kill the ones that have not seen man. They tell him that. Keep the virgins for yourself. Right? All these things God tell Moses. You can understand the Midianites. Remember when Moses murdered somebody in Africa, which means that African had a law saying don't murder. There's 10 Commandments, right? And Moses ran out. He went to a well, and he ran across a Midianite woman. And the Midianite woman kept him for 40 years. He stayed amongst the Midianite people for 40 years. So by the time you get that thing, Exodus 24, you read that whole story and everything, right? God is telling Moses to kill the Midianites. Ain't that not what the white man do? You help him, and next thing you know, he's coming back trying to kill you. He say don't do this, and he turn around and do it himself. He speak with the double tongue, the forked tongue. Ain't that what God do in the Bible? Understand this, right? In your Bible, you can go to, a guy asked me where the evil come from, right? So I said, go to your Bible. So I'm going to go there. I'm going to go to Isaiah. These other things, so I go ahead quickly. Go to Isaiah 45, I think it's 45:7. Let's see. Go to Isaiah 45:7, right? I'm going to show you where the evil came from in the world. And I ain't write this. This is the Holy Bible, right? The King James Version. 47. And it clearly says, I'm going to go down here. You should read the whole chapter, right? You should never cut and paste scripture, but I'm going to cut and paste this one. You're going to read the script, the whole scripture. 45:7 said, no, I'm coming up to say, that they may know from the rising of the sun and from the west that there is none beside me. I am the Lord, and there is none else. I formed the light, I created the darkness, I made peace, and I created evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. All I'm saying is, there will not be no evil in the world if the Lord God had not created it. It's right here in the Bible. Now, by the time you come to an African expression, watch this. I'm going to go to see that by Karenga. African, holy, scarred writings. See, the Bible is not the only holy, scarred writing. I'm going to go ahead and let's see, right, what the African did had to say. I'm going to come to it's the book of knowing the creation. I'm going to get back to it, but I'm going to pull this out real quick, right? I'm going to come down and it says the 4 Ds of the creation, right? I'm going to come right down in here, right? It says, I made every person like his and her fellow. I did not command them to do evil. It was in their own hearts and minds which caused them to disobey that which I commanded. This too is one of the great deeds.
Before you go into it, what is the Hosea? I mean, where did that come from?
This come what Karenga did was scar wisdom of ancient Egypt. I don't like using the word Egypt, and I'm going to explain why. Ain't no such words word Egypt, but it's the scar writings of the Africans. And what he did was he compiled a lot of different papyruses of a lot of different African writings, right? And he put it together in a form where you can sit back and read it. And it's amazing how you'll find out, right? We'll get into it later, how from a lot of things taken from the Bible was taken from the African scar writings. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to go to Egyptian coming forth by Dan Benite, come to the pyramid text, the book of Ani, and I'm going to show you where they stole all the information from. My thing is, right, I don't want to use the word stole because in essence, right, all information is for everybody. The problem I have with it is that they use, I don't have a problem using the Bible, not at all, because these African writings, right, will help you. My problem is when you take it and you regurgitate to my people and say, this is the first place that these things were written by men inspired by God. This is the only place where these things are written by God. And we are the people in control of these things that were written by the only God. The Hebrew Torah, we are God's chosen people. When you start to do that, you become a liar, a foreigner, and a faker. So I don't want to say they stole it because in essence it was for the whole planet to realize this information, right?
And one more thing, how old are the writings that he took from the African writings?
Okay, the truth of the matter is, right, the Egyptian writing didn't have vowels, right? You can take it back at least 5,000 BC, right? But then you got the African writings, which predate the Egyptian writings, right? They had the vowels and had like 23 characters in the letters, you know what I'm saying, that they haven't even deciphered yet.
Wow.
And we'll discuss the term Egyptian and what it meant. Right? We'll really get into that. But back to the original question, I think we was talking about, do I believe in God, right? But the point is, am I atheist, right? So wait a minute, I won't get to this point. The point was that in the African writings, right, clearly states, right, that he said, I didn't command them to do evil. You know what I'm saying? He said they did it on their own, out of their own mindset. But in the Bible, it said God said he created evil. So in essence, the deity here, right, was stating that the evil that's here was created by the men on the planet, the men and the women on the planet. I didn't create that. Now, I'm not saying that I believe for 1 minute that either a God popped out of the sky and wrote that, or even a God popped out of the sky and Africa wrote that. I'm saying it was the mindset of the people that wrote this information. So the mindset of the people here was like, whatever created everything, or the causation of things that caused things to come into being, had no evil tendency about it, right? Or the whole thing was balanced in such a way where it was just pure balancement. But by the time you come here, it shows you how the white man think. Real clear. So, right here, we was talking about etymology of the word God. And I just want to make it clear that God is not an African word. It's not an African concept. It's a European mindset. So when you say, I believe in God, you're saying in essence, as detailed in this book, in essence you're saying, I believe in cultures other than myself. That's all you're really saying. Get that point. So by the time you come here, right, it's talking about theos. It said theism, right? So you ask me about atheists, right? So you come into theos or theism from the Greek word theos, meaning God. The word theos is the word found in the New Testament for God. It's a Greek word. So when you ask me am I atheos, anti-God or anti-theos, but of course I'm anti-theos. Of course I'm all black people in their right minds supposed to be anti-God or anti-theos, because it was the Greeks that came in and destroyed African culture and African way of life. And I know I took a long way to answer that question the other day. Of course I'm an atheist. Of course I'm anti-European culture for the word God. Of course I'm anti-Greek culture because they come in line stealing and conquering. Of course I'm all anti-anything that makes me throw away my customs, my traditions, my institutions, and my language. But of course I'm against all that. So when you ask me am I anti-God or atheist, I'm against all things that destroy African way of life.
Another classic question for you.
Oh, classic questions.
What do you believe in?
What I believe in, belief infers doubt. Because if I was to ask you, are you a homosexual? If you're not going to say, well, I believe I'm not. You say, no, not no, but hell no. Understanding that belief is always shrouded in ignorance and fear. It's like that song that, what's his name sung? Superstition.
Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder. He said, when you believe in things you don't understand, superstition's on the way. You know what I'm saying? So you're not supposed to believe in nothing. If you have a belief in something, you're supposed to take it from that stage of belief to the point of knowing. And if you can't take it to that stage from belief to knowing, then it's a superstition. So they got us running around with superstitions. So the thing is, what do I know? I tell you this. I'm not sitting here saying that I am nowhere near intelligent enough to say exactly what it is that continues to bring things into being. But I'll say this much. I'm not stupid enough to fall for what they gave us. That's for sure. Nobody was there. Nobody knows. Right? I'm not accepting that. See, this is how they do it. They limit you like this. They say, the Africans say the causation, the things that cause things, that cause things, that cause things, that cause things. That make things cause. The seed and the seed and the seed and the seed and the seed. Meaning they never give you a starting point to it. What the Europeans do is, they give you a clear starting point. They say, in the beginning, and we know in the beginning who did it. But you ask them, who was there writing that in the beginning? They never can tell you that. Was it a stage where the person before he stepped up and looked at the beginning? Did he develop writing first? Was that there? Right? They never give you that information. So what they do is they tell you, in the beginning that they know who it is, what it is, how it did it, and then they want to tell you how it worked. In essence, with the European, Hebrew, Christian, Muslim, Juju, they say we know exactly what it is that caused things to come into effect. We have it, and it's contained in our little teeny 66 books, or our little Quran. We have it, and that's it. And anything outside of that, you're a pagan. And if you don't listen to it, we're going to beat you in the head with it like we did in slavery, because when they was putting you on them ships, right, they was saying prayer. They teach them slave castles in Ghana, right? The churches, ain't they? That's crazy. The slave castles underneath them is the dungeons and stuff on top is the church, white church, right? They take you in, they reading the Bible to you as they put you on them ships. So in essence, your DNA memory always looks at this as the thing that killed you, because that's what was happening to you before you was placed on the ships. They was reading the Bible. So my point being is, who in the hell would know what it is? I'm saying, I don't know what it is. And Africans never fought over that point. They never fought wars over that point. They might have discrepancies over this, that, and other, but they fight over something that can't nobody figure out anyway. How are you going to figure out unfigurable? Right? The thing you're trying to figure out, the essence of it is yourself. Okay, look at you laughing. It's your wife.
I try to be quiet.
Try to be quiet.
Okay, speaking, just to break, while you call it a break, speaking of the slave ships, you made a point earlier that when they brought us over here, that we weren't Christians, but a lot of us were Muslims.
Right.
Does that mean that Islam is better than Christianity?
No, that means that they got to us first. That means in 800 years, as detailed by Dr. John Henry Clark, right? A great classic Messiah, a great Messiah, right there, right? He said, right, that Islam came with the flag and crescent, star and crescent, right, enslaving the Africans. So they enslaved us first. As a matter of fact, the Muslims, they got slavery down to a science, really. When they showed, like, they knew how many inches of chains, right, that needed being between the feet so they could walk, right. They actually carried us across the Sahara, right, all the way back over into Iraq. So in actuality, by the time you get to Timbuktu, right, that was really a staging area, right, for slaves. You know what I'm saying? So they enslaved us first, right? Raping, murdering our women, chopping off feet, killing babies. They was crying too loud, right? These Muslims did that, right? And they all came in the name of Allah. So when you're a Muslim, you really giving credit to your oppressor once again. But I guess we just didn't know that. We ain't studied enough. So for all you black Muslims, right, Islam is not an African religion. It's a fragment from the periphery. It's a fragment from the outskirts of African culture. We probably were trying to throw that stuff away. By the time they come in,
somebody went and picked it up out the trash.
They picked it up out the trash. They said, oh, we was like, dude, that don't really work. We was throwing it away, y'all can have that. It's amazing. So no, just because we was conquered by Islam first, right, doesn't mean that that's an African way of life. I hear a lot of Muslims say, well, Abraham was a Muslim. That don't make no sense. You ain't got no Islam before the Quran, no matter what you try to say. In actuality, the Quran is nothing but a Jewish writing. Go to Walter Williams, he'll tell you that the Quran is Jewish writing. All the stories that you find in the Quran, you can find in the Bible.
But
for sure.
Do we need, I mean, we say God for the lack of a better word, right, but don't we need a God concept?
You need something. But whatever it is you need, it damn straight better be getting you out of the situation you in. That's the point. Whatever it is you think you need, it better be getting you out of the situation you in. It don't make sense to have something that don't do that for you. Right? Why have this great God and you can't use it to get you out of that situation? We've been looking for Jesus Christ. The nigga is really late. You talking 2008. That's 2,000 years we waiting on him. And if you really read the book, he's supposed to come back in a little while. You know what I'm saying? You read the book of Revelation and say, I'll be back in a little while. If I'm coming to you and say, yo, man, I'll be back in a little while, and I come 2,000 years later, you're going to say, man, you late. You said you'd be back in a little while. So the truth of the matter is, whatever we need to make up concepts, ideas. We need to make a spirituality that protects us against the things that oppress us. we need to make up a culture, form a language, right, that keeps us informed and instructed on how to diffuse the thing that's killing us. We need to construct ideas, institutions, and languages that will help us control and maintain our natural resources. Because it's through these resources we can use to build our culture. It's through these resources we can use to feed our babies. That's like number one law of nature, survival. If you're not controlling those components that control your survival, then you're depending on somebody else for your survival. And who are we depending on for our own survival? The very thing that put us in that situation in the first place. The very thing that's oppressing us from the beginning. We're depending on them for our survival. We don't grow out food anymore. We don't have. If we talk about a revolution, if they close down the food markets, what we're going to eat? If they close all the stores, we're going to get our clothes from. We're not in control of our natural resources, and the point of the matter is Africa is one big, giant resource. I mean, whatever it was, right, that allowed us to have that much natural resource, we need to figure out what it was. We need to give back and get control of natural resources. If you look at India today, right, they're in control of their natural resources. I mean, they like a world power now. And the only reason they're a world power is because they continue to follow their religion. You got a couple nuts that jumped off the bandwagon, like Christian, right? But in the end of the day, right, they go back to their spirituality. And their spirituality allows them to maintain and own and operate their own natural resources. It's about economics. The first principle of the universe, right, is clearly stated by Dr. Leonard Jeffries, as he looked me in my face and told me, is the natural resources. Economics. Spirituality should be, look at white man's spirituality. His spirituality is this, and it's deep. He got a deep spirituality, yo. Right here. It tells you right here. And God we trust.
Yeah.
His spirituality is on the money.
They got a picture of God on the front.
And they got a picture of God on the front. Jesus Christ losing his hair. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. On the back, he tell you where he stole his signs from. Bam. You know what I'm saying? He tell you where he stole his signs from. He give you all African concepts. He give you the eye, the all-seeing eye was really the pineal gland. He give you the pyramids. He really tell you, I went over there, I beat them down to the ground, right? And now I got their stuff. Man, he built this whole civilization using your economic keys. It's amazing.
Can there be a multicultural religion if everybody followed it to the letter?
No, that's like saying you can have a multicultural beehive, ants, dragonflies. No. See, all these things operate perfect in nature, apart from nature. Each piece has a thing that nature designed it to do. And to become intertwined in such a way, then you're throwing the balance out. See, African culture is a beautiful culture. European culture is a beautiful culture. Chinese culture, Asian culture, all these are beautiful cultures. And they're even more beautiful when they work together. So yes, we can work together, right? But a multicultural thing, that would never work. That doesn't even make sense. That doesn't even go with the tenets of nature. Sure don't.
Do you pray?
Nah. Because nobody's listening. You first had to ask me, who is listening to you to pray? Let's give an example of what they say about God. They say God knows everything, right? Can tell you what you're going to say before you say it, right? Can hear everything, it's everywhere at all times and everything, right? So if that's God, then what would be my purpose of praying? God already know what I'm going to talk about before I say it. So why would I have to do that? All I would ever have to do is have an action, right, that's in conjunction with the survival of my people, right? Or help me control my natural resources. But to actually sit there and pray to something, like what would we really pray to? What would be the point in praying to something to know everything? That's like stupid. That's like repeating yourself over and over again. It just does not make sense to pray. Now, the question be asked, will I meditate? But of course I would meditate. Praying is the act of speaking and making noises, right? Meditation is the act of being quiet, listening to the signs and symbols of nature. You know, sitting back, feeling what's going on around you. It's an inner piece, an inner expression. White people prayed because they didn't know what the hell they was doing. They was making a lot of noise. They was trying to copy our rituals and our things, and we was like, what are you doing? what are you doing? So no, I wouldn't be a praying person. Not saying that might not be something that somebody could do, but I'm saying to this point, I haven't found out what exactly what I be praying to. I want to connect to something. I want to pray to something. How can I pray to the very thing that is the essence of me?
What do you mean?
Meaning the whole universe consists of everything that I consist of. As above, so below. Same inner, same outer. You have an outer space, you have an inner space. Actually, I am a reflection of the universe, and the universe is a reflection of me. So in actuality, why would you need to pray to yourself? That's all you're doing when you pray. You be praying to yourself. We need to pray to myself.
Okay, if, you know, you're saying praying to yourself. If in the beginning, you know, nothing existed,
right?
You know, except this creator,
right?
You know, how does that get to me? What is that in relationship to me?
First of all, I'm my own creator. Because it was my mother that created me, and it was her mother that created her, and the process is never ending. There is no beginning. What you ask me is, how do I get back to the source? In actuality, I am the source. I'm an aspect of the source. I'm a reflection of the source. So the way to stay in contact with, see, that's what they do with the religions. They break your power cord. They unplug you. Meaning, they give you their cultural expression. And we can be honest, the Bible and Quran, right, are nothing but a family book. And in that family book, their primary ancestor is God. And from God made Adam and Noah and so on, all the way back to Jesus Christ. So they're giving you a family history on how they dealt with their deity and how their deity dealt with them. They're giving you an ancestral link back to God. The truth of the matter is, we're not an ancestral link. So the key for us as a people is to replug the power cord. Connect back into your ancestry, and connecting back into your ancestry, right? You connect back into your culture. And connecting back to your culture, you connect back into nature. And to connecting back into nature, right? You're connecting back into the sun. And connecting back into the sun, you're connecting back to what they said was the force behind the sun. So in essence, once you go inside, right, you connect back to the thing that you're calling the source. Never be found outside you. Always inside you.
Is there a place or a thing called heaven?
Heaven is originally an African expression called a mental, right? In actuality, they was talking about a mental state of mind. They wasn't even talking about a place where you could go. They was preparing the nagu, or the nigger. They was preparing them, right, to get into the right state of mind. You know what I'm saying? To get this blissful place. They call it with the afterlife. Right? In essence, nothing really dies. You know what I'm saying? So the pharaohs are still here, or the nagu, we call it the nagu, right? Or the niggas, and I get into that, right? It's no such thing. We wasn't saying it was a place where you go at. The truth be told, nobody's went to heaven and came back. They even prove it. It's a cultural expression first expressed by the Africans. And you have to study the material to know what they was talking about. But by the time you get to the pearly gates and the Christianity and the beat over the head with the Bible and the slavery and all that, then you think you're dying. They say if you want everlasting life, right? They say you first have to die and go to heaven. Now how much sense would that make? I want everlasting life, I first gotta die and then I go to heaven? How does that make any type of sense? But how does that think? So we think we're gonna die and then live forever.
All right.
But nothing in nature says that. Nature says everything is recycled. Meaning I am just the return of the ancestors that was presupposed to be dead.
It's kind of heavy what you're saying, because, I mean, not only do people, expect to go to heaven when they die, it's like black people, it's like sometimes we almost feel even better if we suffer a little bit before we go to heaven.
Oh, that's that, because that's just a Bible teaching. Remember, I mean, you gotta read the Destruction of Black Civilization, man. You really gotta study that chapter. I think it's page, I forgot what page it's on. I think it's 64. No, I forget what page it's on. But look at the chapter. It's called Conquest of the African by Religion. You really gotta read that. You know what I'm saying? That's the essence of the whole thing. To think that you need to suffer, right, before you go, it's crazy. They put that in there like that because they knew you was going to suffer when they enslaved you. They knew it was going to be pain and suffering for you. They already knew that. You know what heaven is? Heaven is knowing that your baby's is going to be all right. That's heaven. You know what I'm saying? To know that when I close my eyes, right, that my children are going to be all right. That's heaven. That's the state of mind that we all should try to reach. You know, in actuality, right? Heaven means different things, different cultures, right? And at this particular time, heaven will be the black man, here I go again, being in control of his natural resources. That will be heaven for us. For sure.
Was there a man called Jesus that was born of a Virgin Mary?
Once again, Jesus is a concept, right? You got Dr. Ben, right? And you got John Henry Clark. Considered Dr. Clark to be one of the greatest teachers of our time. And if he says there is no Jesus Christ, right, then you can rest assured you ain't gonna find him. Right? But Dr. Ben says there is no Jesus Christ, right? He says there is no God, right? You can rest assured you will never find him in your lifetime. Jesus Christ is a Greek word. It's a cultural expression used by Europeans to conquer and to destroy and to steal African natural resources. It's their figurehead in their religion. You only find Jesus Christ in your four Gospels. You can make up stories. What they were stealing was an African concept, right? Let me show you a Christ. I can show you a Christ child. I can show you, they say one of Jesus' names was what? Emmanuel. What does Emmanuel mean? It means God with us. Let me see. I'm going to show you a God with us. I want to come to the many faces of God. This book is 1,000 Faces of God. Right? You can see that one.